Bleeding Purple Podcast.
Deep block, steps up in the pocket. He'll fire to the right side. Caught by Nick. Stay on. Oh my God! 30, no 10. Touchdown! Are you kidding me? In the Minneapolis, no way! Stephon Diggs and the Minnesota Vikings have walked off on the New Orleans Saints. It's a 61-yard Minneapolis miracle. I can't believe what I just saw. What an unbelievable play.
Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in to Bleeding Purple, the podcast about the Minnesota Vikings. My name is Tyler Haig. I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Adam Patrick. Hello, good sir.
Hello, everybody.
Let us start at the part where, we've talked the most about it, and we got the sounder. What up? The quarterback weekly update.
Weekly obligatory quarterback situation update.
First of all, going through the grapevine, a lot of A.J. McCarron talk.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Or let me phrase it this way: how many wins do the Vikings have if he's their starter all season?
Ooh.
I had a tweet where I said they max out at 9 wins. I think if he's their starting quarterback all year, I don't think they can do much better than 9.
I think that's being generous.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
I would say maybe 8. Maybe 8.
Maybe 8. Okay.
I mean,
Is this backup quarterback syndrome like times a million? What are people so excited about A.J. McCarron about here?
because he's a fresh face. He hasn't really played a lot, so people, don't know. There's not a lot of tape. I think he started 3 games in 4 years, so there's not a lot to go off of. He was successful in Alabama, but he was also on Alabama.
Yeah. He's an Alabama quarterback. Why are we caring?
Yeah. I mean, he was the backup behind Andy Dalton, so he couldn't overtake him as the starter.
Yes. If
So
there's anything
that should tell you all you need to know.
Totally. Is that Dalton has been Dalton for this long and he couldn't take that job. That's all I need to know about him.
And Hugh Jackson loves him, so that should tell you even more.
Ugh. Sorry, that's a bad resume, man.
I just wrote something about him yesterday about how the only way I would see the Vikings bring him in would be to be a backup, and I don't think he would come just because he probably wants to be a starter or at least compete for a starter somewhere else, and that's not going to be in Minnesota. He would probably be, if they brought back Teddy or Keenum, they would bring in McCarron for, to be the backup.
Yeah. Do you think – I've been thinking about doing this as like a series of articles, like worst case scenario for the Vikings at each position, right? So quarterback, everybody else is gone. Kirk Cousins signs with somebody else. Case Keenum gets paid $1 bajillion to go to Denver. Teddy, they figure out the tolling thing and it's not going to toll, and he bails and goes to like a Jacksonville or something. Worst case scenario. This is a
Mark Sanchez?
possibility. I mean, like this, it's a very real possibility that all those guys could leave and they're stuck with nobody.
It's real. I wouldn't say it's very real, but it's real.
Okay. What percentage would you? Well, you got to think
that they don't get anybody. Like they don't get one of the
Keenum,
top 4.
Yeah.
That they don't get them. I would say 10%.
10%. Okay. That makes me feel a little bit better. I just, how my brain works. It always goes to the worst case scenario.
I think they want to bring Teddy back, and I think he wants to come back. It's just all a matter of working out like the proper deal that pays Teddy, maybe enough that he wants, and then is also friendly enough for the Vikings to get out of it if they need to.
Yeah. That was basically what you just said was essentially what Peter King wrote on he went through all of the quarterbacks for and he says Keenum's coming back, and Teddy will most likely come back on an incentive-laden contract. Do you think that's the most likely way they go? Is bring
No.
Do you think they're going like?
I think it's
all in
one or
on
the
Cousins?
other. Yeah. No, I think it's one or the other. I think they, even if they do go for Cousins, I think they'll just go for him, or they'll just go for Keenum, or they'll just go for Teddy Bridgewater. I think they want someone to be able to know that they're a starter by like April or May. That way they can prepare, and then sign a backup or have Slaughter be the backup or whatever, draft a backup, and have the person who's going to be their starter be able to prepare without going in training camp, not knowing if they're going to be the starter or not, and not have Mike Zimmer,
Yes, get
take
asked
questions,
about it every week.
questions, because he's going to
He
get
doesn't like that.
fed up after the very first press conference that happens at, even though he knows it's going to happen.
Dude,
So,
do you think
no.
about that? We asked that question, or rather, that question was collectively asked by the media every week
Into the
this
playoffs.
season. Even happened at the NFC Championship game. Someone asked. It was every game this year. Somebody asked,
'cause,
"Is this your guy?"
Yeah, that was because of Bradford, but yeah.
Yuck, man.
Yeah, that doesn't happen when, Keenum is amazing.
Yeah. That was a brutal season. I think you're totally right. I think you're nailing it. I don't think they want to have a competition. I think they want to give somebody the keys and go. And I think that will also determine who they're going to go with and how much money they're going to give them. Because I don't know if you want to give Keenum long, 5-year deal for whatever. Because I don't know if they think he's the guy. So that will affect the way they go.
I think 2014, that was Zimmer's first year. I'm not sure if they had quarterback competition. I don't remember exactly, but I know Castle won the job, and Ponder was there too. But I'm not sure if it was necessarily a quarterback competition. But that was really the only year since Zimmer's been here that there has been something like that, and ever since it's either been Teddy was the starter, and then Bradford, and Bradford was this year too, before the preseason even started.
Yeah.
So, I don't think that's what they want to do. I don't think they want a quarterback competition. I don't think a lot of teams, especially because they have success. They're not like looking for a quarterback that will take them the distance, because they have a good enough team around them where they can have a quarterback that isn't a superstar but still gets the job done. They don't need to have a competition and all that stuff.
I feel like we mentioned it a little bit last week, but I feel like collectively we are losing focus on. It's like we're looking at these quarterbacks in a vacuum. Like, is Cousins better than Keenum? Is Keenum better than, like, you can't look at it like that, because it's who's going to fit this team best. And because the Vikings, like you said, aren't going to. They don't need a savior quarterback. They need a guy who can get the job done and not be an issue for them, not lose them games, because of his decisions or what have you.
Side note, I also don't think, after there's been lots of talk about it or whatever, Kirk Cousins' contract, I really don't think $30 million a year is that much anymore.
No, it's not. And you know what else is? This has been brought up a couple of times, but as the years go past and the salary cap continues going up, by the 4th year, $30 million is going to be nothing. Like, that's going to be nothing to
Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's a free agent next year. He's going to get more than that.
Mm-hmm. It's very. I don't quite understand it.
From the Falcons, but not from, because they'd be down the line go to free agency.
Exactly, and they won't. He'll never hit free agency. They'll pay him whatever. See, and that, we've talked about that. It's not what do you have; it's what else is out there. And when you have Matt Ryan, it doesn't could he be a little bit better? Sure, but you're not going to get rid of him to get Kirk Cousins. You're just not. That ain't happening.
Yeah.
Maybe they will. I don't know. Maybe that's some speculation. Maybe that's some throw that against the wall, see if it sticks.
We're going to find out a lot this week to see if the Vikings actually are going to tag Keenum.
Yes.
But
a lot will change this week because of the franchise tag. That stuff happens this coming week, correct?
February 20th. It starts. That's when they're eligible. Which I would assume most teams would do it as quickly as possible.
Okay. Is there anybody who are you expecting to see? Franchise.
Le'Veon Bell. maybe Drew Brees, just so they can do it and then work out a contract
That actually
later.
maybe wouldn't be the worst idea ever. Yeah.
But maybe not, because quarterback franchise tag I think is almost like $24 million. But he makes a lot anyways.
He does, and it doesn't feel like
and
you're gonna have a problem paying him.
A couple other people, but like there's usually only like 5 or 6 players a year that get the franchise tag, and not a lot of quarterbacks. So
I would love to see Washington.
Le'Veon Bell would probably be the big one, and then if the Redskins, Cousins has already said if the Redskins franchise him, then he'll file a grievance. And then people have already said they're probably not going to do that because they want to trade him. They want to tag him and then try and trade him, but
nobody's going to trade for that.
Well, and Cousins said he wouldn't sign with anybody who traded for him if he was franchise tagged.
Under that. So. All right. Well, that's good. I can stop thinking about that then, because that made no sense. I think it would be so stupid. Let's talk
for the
a little
Redskins?
bit for the Redskins to do it. I think it just is so dumb for them.
But do you think the Vikings are going to tag Keenum?
Man, I don't think so, because I don't think. Well, it's like you said. I don't think they want a competition. I think the only thing that happens when you franchise tag Keenum is it creates a competition with whoever else you're bringing in, because you would think that either Teddy would come back or basically then you're just giving it all to Keenum, which I maybe am not that comfortable with.
It's like a wait and see kind of thing.
Yeah.
Too.
And that doesn't.
We'll see if he's good next year, but they can do that with like a contract too. They can give him like a Mike Glennon kind of deal where they give him a bunch of money. It looks like in his contract, but they can get out of it pretty cheaply. Next year if he doesn't play well. Because I think the Bears can get out of Mike Glennon's contract this year for like $4.5 million. Mm-hmm. And everyone last year was freaking out because they gave him so much money, but actually the contract was pretty good.
Well, and that's the other thing too about these NFL contracts is what's the guaranteed money and where is it laid out in the years? Because if you can front load everything and get it in the first 2 to 3 years and then create no cap hit for yourself in the 4th and 5th year, well then, I mean, there's nothing albatross about that contract. It's going to be gone in a minute.
And the Vikings have really good contracts too. Like I saw the other day, Xavier Rhodes just got an extension, but if he was cut this year, it would only cost the Vikings like $1.2 million.
Wow.
So he's due like 12 or 13.
And that's such a big deal when good players and your relationship with a good player sours, because we see it happen all the time. Kansas City and corner back. Yeah. What do you think of that whole thing?
I said today I think he might they might trade him, or he might end up in LA because I think he's from Oakland.
Oh, is he? Okay.
And Rams are about to lose one of their top corners, Tremaine Johnson. He's a free agent, and they don't think he's going to come back. So that could be a place where he might end up.
Do you see any interest from the Vikings?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. It doesn't. I mean, it would be. I don't even know how great it would be to have him. He's a great player, but that dude has been nothing but.
Yeah, he seems a little out of control. Mm-hmm. Like not someone that Zimmer maybe could tame.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel like he fits the.
I mean, Zimmer would try and put him in line, but he might not. With the people that he has now, like he probably just doesn't want to deal with something like that. He has a good enough group of dudes in the defensive backfield, or he could bring someone in through free agency or the draft that he feels more comfortable with than bringing someone in like that.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I mean, it would be formidable to have those two guys as your corners, but are you really taking that much of a step back with Wayne's and his progression going forward versus
they can also
the headache too that he...
They could also just sign Kyle Fuller. He's a free agent. He was pretty darn good with the Bears last year. Mm-hmm. So
a lot of options.
I think he was drafted the same year as Trey Waynes.
Okay.
So
who was Peters and Rhodes went in that same draft, didn't they?
It was Waynes and
was it Wayne? Okay, yeah, because that's the big. Okay, yes, because that's why everyone's complaining is because Waynes was drafted ahead of, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, and that did not go over well with some Vikings fans.
Yeah, because he barely played in his rookie year, so automatically he's a bust. Mm-hmm.
But Xavier Rhodes wore boxing gloves at practice.
Yeah,
so
the jury's still out on Waynes. he's super fast, but sometimes he just gets caught looking at the quarterback and the receivers like, "Oop, see ya."
And I thought he played, all things considered, last season. I thought he played.
He had a
really
good
well.
season.
Yeah, I thought he had a really good season. And to me, when you have that defense and you have a guy like Rhodes on the other side, all you have to do is just not be a huge issue. And I don't think Wayne's at any point last season was a huge issue. There were times where he got beat. There were times where Rhodes got beat too. There were times where Rhodes was off the field and somebody else got beat. Like that. It's football. That kind of stuff happens. I thought he played really well.
Rhodes got beat enough where he didn't make the top 101 Pro Football Focus players of 2017. But he was an All-Pro.
Do you think... Have we jumped the shark with the analytics and with the numbers and things like that, where you can have, it's so widespread, where you can have a guy who's an All-Pro but not a Pro Bowler, and you can have a guy who's an All-Pro but not in your 100 best players in the NFL list.
Well, the Pro Bowl is a popularity contest.
Yeah, but
all Pro stuff's more about like the people who actually watch the game every week, the writers.
Yeah. And
the Pro Football Focus is they're off in their own little land because they don't even they use stats, but like they go on like their own grading system by like they grade every single play. So like whatever plays Rhodes was thrown at, which wasn't a lot in the game, and if he messed up, then he would mess up on like 1 of 3 pass attempts to him. But he would only see like 2 or 3 balls probably thrown his way a game, even a little bit more.
Yeah.
So his chance for not succeeding was higher than other people who were getting the ball thrown at them like 10, 15 times a game.
Yes. And it's so Pro Football Focus, they kind of seem like it's like fun with stats, where it's when you use stats a certain way, it's easy to make anybody look successful, and when you use those same stats on a in a different way, it's easy to make that same player look like.
Well, I'm fine with their stats and stuff. They have some good stats like that are actual like cut and dry, but the stuff when it comes to like, their grading and stuff, like people treat that like it's like the holy grail of like everything, like like it's their own system. So why is it like the almighty? Like everyone should believe them that so and so is a great player.
Yeah,
like they've had instances in the past that have pissed off the Vikings.
Yeah.
Especially
it's so funny because you see a good stat from them and it's like, ooh, this helps the Vikings, retweet, and then you see another one that's like Xavier Rhodes isn't in that top 100, not going to retweet that. It's like, well,
stuff with like rating, stuff with like quarterback rating and stuff like that. I've always been hesitant to like get behind just because it's really confusing, like because you really don't know how it all like gets formulated.
Yeah. Well, and how could you possibly grade the performance of a player when you don't know what the goal was on each play?
That's the problem a lot.
No.
That's what the problem a lot of NFL coaches have with that. Like for like a Brian Robinson, whose job out there probably isn't to get a strip sack every single time he's on the field. He's trying to make sure that the defense, everyone knows what they're doing, and stay in a certain area and make sure that no one gets by him. But to somebody like Pro Football Focus, they'd be like, oh, he didn't, rush the passer good enough or something like that.
Yeah, he gets a D because he was nowhere near the quarterback at any point in this game.
Or he could be
that could have been his responsibility in the entire game.
He could have been told to like rush the passer like away from the quarterback to maybe like create a hole for someone to go through, and they would look at that as like, oh, he, the offensive lineman overtook him to away from the quarterback.
It's amazing how much of that goes, I don't want to say unnoticed, but gets overlooked. Like defensive linemen taking on blocks so that linebackers can make the play. Like stuff like that. That is so common schematically for these teams to do, and then to grade a player based on like, oh well, he did a bad job at making that tackle. It's like, well,
especially with the Vikings, because they have super fast linebackers, and then they had Linval in the middle there clogging up at least
and from a
2 or 3
defensive
guys.
perspective, part of the thing that makes him so good is that by the way they do things like that, they can dictate what you are able to do as an offensive unit. Like that. That's football. That's so important to like these grades and things, and it just feels like nobody's really paying attention. We're still in the quarterback update. section. There's a really long quarterback update. But do you know where they're at with the Teddy Tolling contract? When will we find out? Do we know when this is going to happen? Do we have any idea that there's a light at the end of the tunnel here?
I think in the past week there's been reports that his camp doesn't believe that it's going to be told, the contract or whatever. I don't think it's been said that like the Vikings don't really want to make that into a messy situation if they don't have to.
It is so ready to be a messy situation too.
Yeah, it is,
so
but
delicate.
I think they'd rather work out like a 2 or 3 year deal with him and try and figure something else like that. Like they might have thought they had a chance, but they activated him and kind of
hang on. Okay, we're good. Continue.
Kind of threw that out the window, I think. Even though he didn't really play, but still, like he was able to play. So
yeah, if he was your backup quarterback during the season, that's like the thing, right? He was playing. He was ready to play. It's
kind of what happened with AJ McCarron. He just won a grievance against the Bengals because I believe they did toll his contract for one of his years because he was on IR or something like that, and with like a shoulder injury, but he was healthy enough to play, but they just didn't take him off. So he won a grievance to become a free agent this year instead of still being under contract.
Oh, okay. Conspiracy theory. The NFL forces the Vikings to only take they force them to do the toll situation because although it might not be in the Vikings' best, I don't want to say best interest, but the Vikings and Teddy Bridgewater, I think, are very capable of working out a deal that's going to benefit both parties. I don't know if the NFL wants them to do that because the idea of tolling these contracts is important to them. They're going to force it to get messy.
Think so?
Teddy hates us. Teddy leaves.
I don't think so. Because then you have
AJ McCarron's a starting quarterback and they win 7 games and they fight Mike Zimmer and the world's over.
You sound like a Vikings fan.
That's right.
I don't think so because then you'd have like the NFLPA get involved and all that stuff, and I just don't think the Vikings want to deal with that. They've already done plenty of favors for the NFL, like drafting Moritz Spoinger and stuff like that. So they already got a Super Bowl, so they don't need to do any more favors for the NFL. They just had a Super Bowl, so they got what they wanted. They got a new stadium. They're good.
Oh, Mobo, that was fun. That was a fun couple of weeks.
Something like that. Yeah,
that was.
The German Randy Moss.
Yeah, he was. Did you see those highlights, though?
Yeah.
Lots
playing against
of touchdowns.
Junior high kids. Yeah,
exactly. See, and that's like we were saying before. Everybody looks great on their highlight video. I could give you a highlight video of me from high school where I looked just as good as AJ McCarron.
I actually watched a video of. I was looking at Teddy videos last week, and a video from him in high school. He threw like a 50-yard bomb. I was like, oh, look, he can throw deep. Just like everyone says he can.
There was a video going around Twitter of him at Louisville and dancing around the pocket.
Escaping.
Yeah, and then like does the lean and heave and right on the money. That was one that I was like, oh yeah.
I've seen that many times. Woo. Yeah, people forget he's capable of doing that stuff.
Oh, he's a gamer. I remember too, I believe it was the preseason before he got hurt where he shook I think it was San Diego. Oh God, that made me so
shimmied him.
Too. Yeah, shimmied him, and then had that was.
That's when everyone was
that
like,
kind of stuff.
That's when everyone was getting super excited about him, and then his leg almost fell off.
Kaboom.
Goodbye. And then he's like, "Oh, I play for the Vikings."
Oh yeah, that's exactly what happened. And the Vikings, the gods say, "You can't have nice things."
Yep. Venn diagram.
Later. It's so sad, but it's so true. All right, well, let's conclude. That will conclude our weekly quarterback. Ta-da! Let's talk a little bit about the new offensive coordinator.
Senior offensive
assistant, thank you. Mr. Todd Downing, he's one of us. He's an Eden Prairie guy, but he's been everywhere, all over the NFL.
Yep.
Most recently with the Raiders as their offensive coordinator, correct?
Yep.
What do you make of this new hire? Are they doing Norv Shermer? Are they just bringing in all of the offensive coordinators so that when other people leave, they can just slide these guys right into the...
I think that's part of it. I think they see there's a big potential of DeFilippo leaving after this year, just because he had interviews to be a head coach this offseason. So clearly people are interested in him, being their head coach. So that's part of it. It was just it makes it confusing to me that they did this after they blocked Stefanski from going. So I'm like, so why?
My next question is, how do you think Stefanski feels?
Why did you do that if you're gonna bring in Downing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I understand you want a bunch of people in there to get as much input on the offense maybe as you can. But it was just confusing to me that they blocked Stefanski from going and then they brought in Downing. Yeah. But we don't know the degree of Downing's role and stuff like that and what it'll be. But I think I was listening to the Purple podcast, the 1500 ESPN one, and Collar was talking to Doogie, you know him?
Yep.
And he was saying how Stefanski, like his camp or whatever, his people weren't very happy that they got blocked.
Yeah.
In New York.
And we always assume that in order for this to go down, that they were giving some, I don't want to say some type of incentive or whatever, but like there had to have been a reason. I'm sure they did, but doesn't that kind of go moot when they bring the dude in?
I'll admit I was wrong. I thought he maybe wanted to come back to the Vikings, and the Vikings covered for him, but it sounds like he actually wanted to go, and the Vikings were like, no.
Yeah, well, and it would make sense if they were like, no, but here's why, is because this dude's going to be gone, and we'll just hire you next year.
It could be possible that they make Stefanski the offensive coordinator next year, and then Downing is the quarterback's coach. That just could be it.
Could be, okay.
Because Downing was fired from the Raiders, and he needed a job, and I think him and DeFilippo are acquaintances. So, he might have just been like, hey, why don't we bring him in? He's a smart dude.
Well, and it feels like they're all of a sudden, they went from, because like the first iteration of this offense was like ancient dinosaur Norv and that whole system. And now all of a sudden,
it's like, before that.
Yeah. And now all of a sudden there's like these like, it's like there's a bunch of young, smart coaches who are like, they're talking about the stuff that we talk about, like adapting your schemes to the personnel that you have on the team, and like you can go through and look at these guys and see their track record that they've been successful, most of them, or at least marginally successful.
One thing about all three of them is that they have a history of being good at developing young quarterbacks. So that might tell you something about the direction they want to go in, whether that be with Teddy or they draft somebody. So, or even Sloter, but
Sloter is the real mystery.
I think it's a good hire. I think it's interesting. It's never a bad thing to have, I think, more input on an offense, especially this day and age when you have people like DeFilippo who are willing to listen to other ideas. Yeah. Unlike Norv, who's like, no, I'm leaving.
That's not how we do it. It's a 7-step drop.
I'm leaving.
All right, bud. I'm out of here. That was Norv. I'm out of here. Tyrod Taylor. Do you think he's coming? Todd Downing. He was in Buffalo. Tyrod Taylor was in Buffalo. They have a thing. Maybe
I'm not
he brings him
sure
in.
They were
they
there
at the same time.
I think
they weren't. I think he was there in 2014 when
he was
Tyrod
there
Taylor get drafted.
With when Kyle Orton was there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that was when Taylor was there. 2015, I think.
15 would have been.
15, 16,
he was
17.
still
Yeah.
in. All right.
He was with the Ravens, but still, it's a possibility. Everyone pretty much who's in free agency or is in trade talks or has 2 legs and 2 arms has pretty much been thrown in the conversation to be interested in the Vikings, or the Vikings have interest. I saw Tannehill, somebody threw that out there this week, and no thanks to that. Yeah. By the way, they got 3 guys to figure out pretty much: Teddy, Keenum, or Cousins. I don't think Bradford's in the mix.
No, I don't think so either.
But then somebody from the outside come in too, so we'll see. It's gonna be fun.
It will be fun, and it's all. I'm ready now. I'm ready for it to start happening with franchise tags and everything.
Yeah.
I want it to move. I'm ready to just see where it's gonna go, because it is gonna change so much about how they draft and who else they bring in and how much money they're going to have to. I mean, one of these dominoes needs to fall. So we can like move on. You saw some odds about Kirk Cousins and who's going to be able to, I guess, afford him, land him. Yeah. Do you think that the Vikings? First, what are
they're
the odds?
third? I think their odds, according to Bovada, one of those betting sites or whatever. They're third. I think they have 10-1 odds behind the Broncos, and then the first is the Jets, because there's been the reports of the Jets possibly, offering him a fully guaranteed contract.
Yeah, interesting.
Which would be ridiculous, but it would totally be something the Jets would do.
Yeah, that's a total Jets move for sure.
Yeah, so they have some good odds, but
do you think? I mean, I guess we'll find out, but that will say a lot about if Kirk Cousins goes to.
I honestly think the Vikings have a better chance than both those teams to get Cousins. If the Broncos had more cap space, I think they only have around like $30 million, and I think they would have a better chance. Yeah. Just because of Elway being there, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, I was quarterback and we won the Super Bowl and stuff." Blah blah blah.
How much do you think that helps them when
I think
they're
it does.
trying to when they're trying to get a Peyton Manning, when they're trying to get like guys like that? It's like John Elway.
They've got Super Bowl trophies in like their hallways and stuff. So
I bet that helps. I bet that helps bring guys in too.
Yeah,
I don't know, but I bet that helps.
Yeah, so it's a cool place to be too. Denver has some really good fans. So, I mean, the Vikings do too. So.
Yeah, and a ton of history there too. And as far as the football team is concerned, I mean, I'm sure there's history not football related, but I don't know that history. So.
Yeah, sure.
I know one reason that I would like to go to Denver that doesn't have to do with football. That's for a different podcast. Skiing, 100%. Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking. Sharif Floyd, the poor guy, in his situation. What's the update on Floyd in his sad, disappointing NFL career?
Well, I included him in one of I wrote like, I think it was like 5 Vikings that are on the current roster that might not be there next year, and I included him just because it's looking like the Vikings are going to try to figure out a way to get him off of the roster. Plus, mostly because his contract told from last year into this year because he didn't play or he wasn't even on any roster. He's on like the NFI list. Yeah. And it's like almost $7 million. So that would help them in, possibly getting Cousins or other people too. Yeah. But I'm sure it's going to probably come down to lawyers and courts and stuff like that. But yeah, it's unfortunate just because he was getting what seemed like a simple knee procedure, and then it just messed up his nerves and his quad, and
then he had to deal with Zimmer thinking that he wasn't trying hard and like talking to the media about it, and then now we're finding out all this stuff. I feel so bad for the dude.
He was good. He was good when he was in there.
He was really good, and if he could have stayed in, stupid football and NFL. Imagine this football team. Teddy never gets hurt. Floyd never gets hurt. Like, that's...
Dalvin never gets hurt. That's part of the game.
Really good. I mean, it is. That's exactly right. What do I always say? The best ability is availability.
Keenum wouldn't be getting as much money this year if it wasn't for injuries. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he'd just be a rando backup still.
Nick Foles, he's probably going to get some more money this year, if not, from the Eagles or somebody else.
Where do you think they have him under contract next year, don't they? Don't Philadelphia? Okay, so he's probably there next year, I'd guess.
I think so, just because of Wentz. They're going to go with Wentz, but just the uncertainty. He's coming off an ACL surgery. They want to make sure they have a backup in case something happens again, because Bradford, he tore his ACL 2 years in a row, so... It's possible.
Could you imagine being a starting quarterback and having your backup be a Super Bowl MVP who was like never really the starter, but he was the Super Bowl? It's crazy. crazy. And on top of that, it's in Philadelphia, which is so strange to me. And like, never mind the like our feelings about Philadelphia fans and all that, but just it's like it's a lot like Cleveland winning the NBA title. It just like I saw it happen, I know it happened, but it's still not registering as like a real thing that
The Cubs,
they don't get
the
to
Cubs.
win. Yeah, Cubs too. That's a great example. Maybe even a better example is the Cubs one. Like I know it happened, but it doesn't.
It feels weird.
Yeah, doesn't feel
Like
right.
like you feel happy for him and stuff, but you're like, but you're supposed to be bad every
Yeah,
year. Like,
exactly. yeah. That's like, wait, not you guys though. You maybe get there, but you lose.
that's kind of how we thought it was going to be with the Vikings this year, but then old ways came back.
That was so. I actually watched that again. Watched the not the Philly game, but the New Orleans game was
Why
on
would you do
NFL
that?
Network, and I left it on. And I stood up when I was watching it. It was incredible.
Yeah.
Dude, what a bummer to go from that high to how bad they got their butts beat in Philadelphia. That was so brutal. So Vikings, but what do you do? What else is there even? Not a lot besides the like rampant quarterback speculation. I mean, not a whole lot else to discuss. Is there anything else in the NFL at large that you are interested in or
Well, we talked about Marcus
hearing about?
Peters.
Yeah.
Talked about Cousins and the Jets. Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot. No. I mean, I think the Bears are going to possibly get rid of Mike Glennon. That looks like it's getting closer and closer.
And
I
that
did
deal
see Bill.
turns out to not be that bad.
I think it was today that Bill Polian said that Lamar Jackson is short quarterback, even though he's
I was driving to work today and heard that, and he said I would rather see him as a wide receiver because he's not tall enough. I was like, those are like you're wrong about all.
Yeah. He also said that he'd rather have AJ McCarron over any other quarterback in the draft this year.
That's absolutely incredible to me.
It's time for him to retire.
Oh man.
I think he also said that Randy Moss shouldn't be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I think you're right. Yep. Because you got to take into account all of these different things. What else? He said something else about
It's time for his family to put him in a home.
Lamar that just bothered me. Oh no, you know what it was? In a good way, he said he would move him to wide receiver, which I think is stupid. But he said he would move him to wide receiver because when he has the ball in his hands, it's so obvious that he's a weapon. And I was like, okay, I guess I could understand why you would say that. But why would you want him touching the ball every play?
Yeah, so is Cam Newton.
Yeah.
You can say that. Same thing about him.
He said he was skinny in that, comparing him to Cam Newton, he said that Jackson wouldn't be able to.
Oh no, Cam Newton's way
bigger, way thicker. Yeah, where he said he wouldn't. He figures that he would get injured. Obviously, paraphrasing.
Yeah.
But figures that he would not be able to play the full season at quarterback.
Oh yeah,
so
that
you would
I would
switch him as opposed to the prior, right? Terrell Pryor.
Yeah, when I've watched some of the tape on Lamar Jackson, that's kind of the thoughts I've had. Like he takes a bunch of unnecessary hits. That like sometimes he initiates contact, and you can't do that in the NFL. Like staying healthy as a quarterback is just as important as not turning the ball over.
Exactly, it might even be more important in certain instances.
Yeah, so like, but still, no, he could be a quarterback. Like Carson Wentz is not the most accurate quarterback, but he was able to be productive last year enough to be an MVP candidate. So with the right, team, I think if somebody drafted Jackson this year, well, he's obviously going to get drafted, but they sat him on the bench and, didn't force him out there like unnecessarily, like a Browns would do or something like that.
I was just going to say, doesn't he feel like a Browns draft pick where it's like the poor guy's just going to go there and his career's going to get killed before it even starts because they're going to put him in when they put him in?
I hope not. I hope he ends up with like a Patriots. That would probably happen.
Yeah, yuck. Let's not say that. Like,
and then he would
more middle ground, more middle
sit
of the road, please.
Sit on the bench for a year or two and refine his skills.
One quick thing about Polian, is that not the most dinosaur Norv Turner?
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't fit the system, and this is the NFL. He's got to fit the system. He's got to be cater your offense to
Yeah.
his strengths, and then
Yeah.
utilize his abilities in the open field with the ball. Like, listen to yourself, my man. Like, why would you close off half of the, like, you're eliminating half of his skill set because
Yeah.
it just
Well,
doesn't
it's-
look like we're used to seeing.
It's guys who've been in the league for a while, and they're like, this is how things should be, not realizing that the league is evolving, every single year, and
Yeah.
players are a lot different than they used to be. There's more smaller receivers like the Odell Beckhams and the Stephon Diggs than there used to be.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't a whole lot of like big, strong receivers like Calvin Johnson or Terrell Owens and stuff like that. The game's changing, and sometimes people realize that a little too late, and then they look stupid.
Yeah. Well, it's unbelievable to me that you can buy one like they were also Polian was talking about Baker Mayfield. He's like, but he's barely 6 feet tall. It's like the difference between 6 3/4, 6 foot.
Yeah, so
3/4
is
of an
Russell
inch.
Wilson.
Yeah, versus 6'1". Oh, but
So is
6'1",
Drew Brees.
that's a viable starting quarterback height. But this guy, a quarter of an inch smaller, just won't make it in the NFL.
Yeah, I really don't. Unless they're like 5'6", I really don't even care about height, because especially if they've had a career like where they've won pretty much everywhere where they've gone. Like, I really liked Russell Wilson when he came out of the draft, and I thought the Seahawks definitely got a steal, and they clearly did.
Yeah.
When they got him, just because he was good everywhere he went, and that usually matters more. Like Baker Mayfield, he was good last year, and I think probably a year previous or whatever with Oklahoma. So I think you have to look more at that than necessarily like a quarterback's attributes, because people get lost in that's like
It's the
too
measurables.
much.
Who cares, man? Like, why it in this time of year? It's just
Ryan Leaf was a huge quarterback with a big arm, and
Yeah.
look how that turned out.
Exactly.
There's so many stories you can go off that.
So many. And so many
Yeah.
stories where you can see on film that they were going to be great, and over the course of the next 2 months in the off season and before the draft, people convinced themselves that this guy was not going to be it because he just didn't look like the quarterbacks they were used to seeing, or
Yeah,
the players
because
they
there's
were
a
used to seeing.
guy, Josh Allen. I think this year he played at Wyoming, and they really weren't that good.
Yeah.
And that bothers me. Like, if you're not good at Wyoming, why are you going to be good in the NFL?
Exactly. You know
It's
who
not,
else?
it's not like Carson Wentz where he's good at South Dakota,
Yeah.
and they win like the championship every year. It's not
I
like
feel
that.
like even, that would be better than, it's like winning. I feel like it's, as a guy who's played a lot of football on
Yeah.
a lot of bad football teams when I was younger,
Yeah.
it is something that you get used to.
Yeah.
Winning and losing. It does help your, I think,
Because you
helps
know
your
what
performance.
to do in like certain situations and
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. And if you lose all the time, you play at Vanderbilt and never finish over 500 or whatever Cutler's stats were while he was at Vanderbilt. It wasn't good.
Yeah.
Guy doesn't know how to put it together and win those games because he's never had to put it together and win those games because they're always getting their butts kicked. I feel like that's important. Winners are important. And I feel like that intangible stuff gets overlooked. And when it's not being overlooked, it's being so focused on that it almost doesn't make any sense.
Winning usually is always a good indicator of a good quarterback, especially if it's from a team that's not like an Alabama or like an Ohio State or something like that, when it's clearly like the whole team.
Yeah.
But if it is like when RG3 was at Baylor, he was pretty much, they had good players, but he was pretty much the reason why they were so good.
Yes.
Stuff like that. Like Mariota at Oregon, stuff like that.
That was going to be the next one I wanted to say. Mariota took them to the next level, and it was so obvious that he was the guy taking them there.
Why is it so hard to see?
I don't know, man. Like, it's kind of...
And why? Speaking of the draft, one thing that bothers me the most is that they do the combine, but they're not wearing pads. That's the thing that bothers me the most. Like, why does it matter they can run 4.340 in their underwear?
Totally.
They're not going to do that.
No.
They're not going to do that on the field. Put a ball in their hands, put a helmet on, put some pads
It's the
on.
equivalent of putting an NHL player in shoes with a broom.
Yeah.
How good does he do? Oh, well, those are great numbers. It's like, he's not playing hockey. That's his job. He's not
Or
playing
giving a baseball player a tee.
Yeah, exactly. Show us what you can do, kid.
Yeah.
Who cares? Doesn't matter. I could do that. I could look okay doing that.
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying, oh, dude, that maybe we should do that for when the combine rolls around. Is I'll run a 40.
Overrate. Well, they do have that Rich Eisen thing where you wear a suit and you dress up and record yourself and
really?
like you hashtag and like money gets donated to St. Jude's and stuff like that.
Yeah, we'll totally do that. We'll do that.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
There's a football field right down the road from me. I can do that.
Yeah, buddy. I might have to. No, I won't have to drive very far at all. I can get there quickly.
I won't have to worry about the weather, but you might.
I will for sure. What is the weather there today?
A brisk 70.
Oh my god. It's so bad here. It snowed 2 inches. I drove around all day, sliding all over. Just horrible. The kind of day that makes me want to move away.
Yeah, my wife and her friend spent the day this morning climbing a mountain. So.
Must be nice.
It's a normal. We went to the beach on Saturday. It's good times.
Dude, there's no beach. What's that? Do you mean ice fishing?
Yeah, right. No, we didn't go in the water, but it was.
We were just walked into the water instead of through a hole in the ice.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Some people like it. Not me.
Yeah, that's okay. I don't like it either. All right. I got nothing else.
That's all right. We talked for a while.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Pretty good for an off season.
We'll have some franchise tag stuff to probably talk about next week, whether or not the Vikings, decide to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll just franchise, Kai Forbath.
Yeah, maybe. God, I hope they don't do that. That would suck. Oh, we should have talked about Sebastian Janikowski. It's too late. We'll talk about it next week. We'll talk
that
about it
article
next week.
that I wrote.
Poor dude. I'm so sorry that.
It's all right. I blocked a couple of people.
I was going to say, and you, if anybody's used to it and prepared for that kind of...
Unfortunately, yeah.
You are.
Part of the job.
It is.
It really is.
But yeah, I wrote the Sebastian Janikowski article, so yell at me, not at it. Internet.
Video evidence was not me. Look at the byline.
Yeah, if you
People
just
click on the article.
I was just going to say, if you click it, it will tell you that I am the one who wrote that article. And you are.
Should have never tweeted it.
Yeah, that was your problem. It was the retweet is what did it. Thanks for that,
Hey, no problem.
All right, bud. We'll see you next week.
All right, Skol Vikings.
Skol Vikes. Peace.